Let's welcome back Alex. This time I would like to ask you several questions about sharing your experience on learning Mandarin. And this time I really prefer you speak in English because that would be quite useful for my beginner learners to listen and then really learn from you.
Of course.
Yeah. So Alex, what do you think the difference you felt on teaching teaching Mandarin between China and your home community?
I think the main difference was at first when you arrive in China, the teachers, because you're put in a class with lots of different nationalities, so the teachers would tend to use just Mandarin to explain everything, which is really hard at first because you don't have a clue what's going on. You forget the word for little things like nouns and predicates and that kind of thing in Chinese. And it makes it really difficult at first, but because it's intense, you pick it up quickly and you soon improve quite fast. So.
All right. But in that case, do you think for the course in UK for beginners, they are total beginners, like starting from scratch? Do you think we just use we say it's immersion teaching method, just like start from very beginning, use all Chinese in class?
I think this is too hard.
Okay.
I think it has to be
the course for example, intermediate level, have some basic knowledge, and also have some basic vocabularies. It might be beneficial.
Yes, I think it helps a lot. The more Chinese you hear, the better. It forces you to work and pay attention. So.
Okay, I take your advice and also a comment. So that's okay. If anybody's please more Chinese, you need to learn this basic vocabulary first. Thank you. And also, what are your tips for students who will study and will live in China, like such a year abroad in China? What's your tips?
I'd say the most important thing is to find Chinese friends. It's very easy in Chinese cities to get sort of trapped in like foreigners community. All of the foreigners tend to know each other and spend all their time together, and it's so easy to do that because it's comfortable and easy. And going outside and speaking Chinese is scary and confusing. But if you go out and do it and force yourself to do it more and more, you soon improve a lot. You can really reap the rewards from it.
Right. Did you have any experience like, I know I assume you have lots of Chinese friends in China. They are all students or different, from different, how can I say?
Different backgrounds.
Yeah, different backgrounds, like migrant workers, for example.
I had quite a few different friends. I was quite lucky because I managed to find an apartment to live in, to rent with 2 Chinese people off campus. So one of them was working at a hospital around the corner, and the other was also working at a hospital as a doctor. And one of them was from the north of China and one from the south. So the accents were very different, and that was quite confusing as well at times, but good fun. But as well, I had not really like great friends, but the shops that I would often go to, the people would recognise me, and they're so happy to just have a chat with you for a while, and then you get to know them more and more. So you can meet. I used to have a chat with the guy that worked in the car park opposite that I walked through every day, and then there was the guy at the little restaurant that I used to go to get roast duck, and then there was the girl at the supermarket as well, and just little things like that help, I think.
Okay, good. Thank you so much. And any tips for mental preparation and health safety preparation before you go to study in China? Do you have any tips?
I think it's important to, when you first get there, that everybody in England always says cultural shock, and you say that in a lot of countries, and you think, yeah, it'll be a bit different, it'll be a bit weird. But I think with China it is quite big and it's quite noticeable, and you have to sort of just sit back and remember that if somebody seems to be really rude to you, it's just their way of being in Chinese culture, and it's not necessarily rude to them. It's just for English people, it seems very rude to us because we're quite reserved, I think, with our culture, whereas over there it's a lot, people are a lot noisier and a lot more outgoing, and they look at you all the time. If you go on a bus, for example, I'm very tall, I got curly hair, and I look very foreign. So everybody would sit, and lots of the old people would just stare at you, and you look at them, and they just stare back. And it feels very weird, but if you just embrace it and try and forget about it, it's not a problem.
Okay, so after you're staring them back, what happened then?
They keep staring.
They are your friends now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Actually, you mentioned the culture shock, this word, and also I heard this term, culture shock, from my former learners when they are studying in Ningbo in China. What barriers and what you think, just now you already say embrace the culture and embrace the home society or whole society environment or atmosphere. So what barriers do you think you sense or just like you feel foreign students might face, or just like challenges they might need to be prepared?
I think starting conversations with people can be very intimidating.
Okay.
Because sometimes you say a tiny couple of words to someone, and they'll just reply to you in really fast Chinese, saying, "Oh, your Chinese is amazing, it's brilliant," and you understand that more or less, and you say thank you, and then they just ask you 100 questions at once, so you can't understand, and it's a bit scary. But I think that can be difficult sometimes, and there are some people that talk quite loudly as well, which can be intimidating. It's almost like they're shouting at you when they speak.
But actually, they are friends.
Yes, they're actually very friendly. Yeah, exactly. Everybody is very friendly at the end of the day. That's the thing. But it's just getting used to it, I think.
Thank you. And the last question. I just want to say, any personal story would you like to share in China when you study and live there? Any personal story you think, interesting, and maybe I'd like to share with my friends or with the current student who are studying Chinese?
I think one of the funniest things, which a lot of you will experience when you're out there, like what I was saying before about people who stare at you because you're a foreigner or whatever, they're really interested in you, and sometimes you'll get people come up to you and ask for photos with you because you're foreign and they want to show their friends that they've met a foreign person or whatever. But as well, there'll be a lot of people that will they'll be talking about you in Chinese to their friends about you, but not looking at you or whatever, and you can just hear, and they don't have a clue that you understand what they're saying. So often, I had a few occasions where that happened, and one of the funnier occasions was when I was travelling in one part of China, and I was with another foreign friend who studies at university as well, and we were queuing up to go on a chairlift. And there were these two girls that were like the guards of the chairlift, and they were just really loudly, really obviously talking about the two of us, describing my hair and my friend's eye colour and his hair colour, how we were both very tall, where are we from, and all this, and they just were really, really obvious about it.
And I also gave you the compliment.
These
guys are so handsome in this way. Chinese.
Exactly. It's a great confidence booster. But then eventually I got closer to them and we got on the chairlift, and I just turned to them and said, "See us here," in Chinese, obviously. And one of them just dropped to the floor, so embarrassed. It was brilliant. It's a great confidence booster, though. It's very funny, very weird.
Thank you. And the final question about Chinese food. About Chinese food, because now lunchtime I really feel hungry now. Chinese food, what do you think? What's your favorite Chinese food you found?
I think there are so many, it's hard to decide. One of my favourite dishes was in Qingdao, one of the characteristic dishes is called gala, which is...
gala?
Gala, yeah.
Is seafood.
Yeah, it's like small clams fried in chili and garlic. Yeah.
So it reminds me like a tongue twister. A shellfish on seashore or something like that.
She sells seashells on the seashore.
Better than me.
It's a lot longer than that. But which is really, really tasty. And the interesting thing, when you go to loads of different Chinese cities, almost every city has its own, they call it 特色菜, like a characteristic dish or whatever. Yeah. Those are normally really good and worth trying. So every time you go somewhere new, you get new food as well. So That's really
worth
good.
it to try that. Worth it to travel there to try different cuisine.
Exactly, yeah.
Thank you so much, Alex, and I hope as well, just like in the future, and welcome you back and with your classmates or with your friends to share your experience with the beginners or just like the current learners. Thank you very much. 谢谢.
Brilliant.
Okay, let's